All right. Hello. Welcome back to my channel. This is an extremely late live stream. So, good night or good morning if you're watching it the next morning. It is 11 o'clock here Pacific time in California. So, 2 a.m. Eastern and lots of other times all over the world. Probably lots of times into Monday, but it is Sunday, very end of the week or very beginning, depending on how you look at it. But here I am doing this live stream. Unfortunately, Granite games ended a little bit later than most of the other semifinals so far. So I had to head to work. I was covering the Golden State Warriors versus Boston Celtics game at the Chase Center in San Francisco. So I had to go and do that. But now I am here with all of you to talk a little bit about semifinals this weekend. We're going to jump right into it with the Granite games, which I thought were very exciting. Just lots of storylines, lots of games level athletes. So it was a pretty exciting semifinal to watch. And I think we got some good athletes in for the games this year. So I'm going to pull up the leaderboard so we can take a look at that. And we've got some exciting games there and exciting athletes there. Let's see. Here we go. Pull that up for all of you. So here is the men's leaderboard for Granite Games. And one thing that I think was super interesting was Brent Fakowski wasn't in first, I believe, until the final event. He came in fifth in that final event, and that's what secured him the first place over Phil Toon, who had a really great weekend. Phil Toon is the only male athlete who is a rookie coming out of this field. I think we had 7 games athletes in this field. So it kind of made it difficult for any rookie to get in here when you have 7 people who have already proved at one point they were good enough to go to the games. And Phil Toon was at the top of the leaderboard for most of the weekend. He had a second and a third place in the first day. I believe that put him at first place going into the second day. Then he won the Minnesota mashup. So he sat really well. He actually had his worst finish in that last event. That was the legless rope climb sprinting workout that we saw from 2014. That was actually the last workout. And this is the first time we've seen that as the last workout of the weekend. So that was interesting just to see that done last. We still had some fast times. We didn't see any records. So maybe that would have been different if they had done this workout earlier, like most of the other semifinals have done, or all of the other semifinals have done. But it was an exciting last workout. I know CrossFit likes those really fast last workouts, and that's what this was for all of the male athletes, at least. I believe every man in every semifinal has finished this event. Women, not so much. We're still seeing some women struggle with those legless rope climbs, but the men are pretty proficient at them, and it becomes more of a sprint workout than it is a muscular fatigue workout, which I think it's more of for the women. First place in that event was Matt Delugos. He is an underdogs athletics athlete, and he sort of had an interesting story. Oh, you might be able to hear my dog. He's barking at me. I'm not sure why. But Matt had an interesting weekend because I know that he really struggled on event 4. That was that speed chipper, I believe. It had those chest to bar pull-ups. And with him being so tall, let's pull this up. I believe he is 6'4". He's a tall athlete, though, and I believe his legs were hitting the ground when he was trying to do his chest to bar pull-ups. And there was a lot of talk about whether or not that hurt his event. I mean, I'm sure it hurt that event, but if it was enough to maybe change whether or not he made it into the game's qualifying positions, and he only missed it by 14 points. So you never know just how much time. You have to go back and look at the video and just see how he had to break up those reps. But then again, you don't know without speaking to him or without seeing him do chest to bar pull-ups just how proficient his chest to bar would have been if he didn't have the issue of his feet hitting the ground. But CrossFitters tend to be short, so we don't see this very often that this is a problem. But 6'4" is a big guy. He is a big guy. And I know that his coach, Justin Kotler out of Underdogs, was really upset about it and was comparing it to some of the shorter athletes like Colton Mertens being able to use a riser to jump up to that pull-up bar. I'm not sure if that's quite comparable, only because he can reach the bar, right? So he's able to do something. If somebody's so short they can't reach the bar, then they can't even complete the event. So I think it's a little bit different, but I also do think that with someone being just that tall, there could be an injury if they hit their foot against the ground too hard, if they're trying to butterfly those chest to bar pull-ups. So I do think that maybe in the future, some of these semifinals, if there is someone just that tall, may have to think about moving one of the bars. I know it's supposed to be even across the board, but it's just kind of a complicated thing when somebody could get injured because of their body mechanics. So that's something interesting that I think will be talked about for a while after this. But going back to just the overall field, we talked about Brent Fakowski. He's just very impressive on how well-rounded he is and how he just kind of chipped away all weekend. I believe after day one, he wasn't even in a top 5 position. He was either the 6th or 7th. He was in the top heat, but not in a top 5. And then he just kept doing what he does and just being very methodical about his way of working up the leaderboard. And after the last event, he was in first, and that was the only time of the weekend he was in first. Very impressed with Brent Fakowski. I know that he says that if he's doing this, then he thinks he still has the ability to win. So maybe he will win at one point. Maybe he'll be able to push Justin Medeiros, but we'll see. Who knows? Phil Toon, very impressive weekend. I know he's been knocking on the door at semifinals for a couple of years now, and now he's finally done it and made it to a semifinals position. So, or a games position. So super impressive weekend from him. Travis Mayer, he struggled a little bit at the very beginning with that 13th place finish the second day. And he was started in the second heat, which was, it just felt confusing. I know that's based off of quarterfinals finishes, but as a 8 times now games athlete, it was interesting seeing him in a lower heat, but climbed his way up. He had that 113th. But other than that, very, very consistent for Travis. 5th, 3rd, that 13th, then 2nd, 8th, and 2nd. Didn't win any events, but did really well. I like Travis Mayer. I think he's an underrated athlete. As we know, he's going to his 8th CrossFit Games. So really impressed by Travis Mayer. Carson, do you want to talk to the live stream? Do you hear him barking behind me? I apologize. That's my dog. His name is Carson. He's a good dog, but right now I think he's confused about why I'm talking to the computer so late at night. But going down to 4th, Samuel Quant. Really excited to see him back here at this level because last year he didn't show up very well. I know he was dealing with an autoimmune disorder, which is a very challenging thing to manage. And I'm sure he was trying to figure out how to balance things with it. Just sort of something that changes your entire life and your entire approach to everything. And he was still adjusting to that. But now he's doing very well. He's back in a games contention position. I think that people doubted him, and he showed people that he's still really good. Also, if you take a look at his stats, he's been doing the Open forever, since 2012. He's got years in this. And how old is he? He's still fairly young, 26. So super impressive from Samuel Quant that he's still competing at this level. And the year before he had this autoimmune disorder become an issue, he finished 2nd at the game. So we should expect to see him do well if he's been able to manage this autoimmune disorder, which I think maybe he is now that he's, doing this well in this competition. He had an 8th and a 15th, so he was probably in the second heat after the first day. But then he ended it on a 3rd and a 3rd. That's consistent and impressive. Colton Mertens, he's that little muscle hamster. I know that when I spoke with Jackson on this live stream on Thursday, he was very excited to see Colton Mertens and how he would do. And he came out really, really great. A 3rd and a 3rd. That's just going to put you near the top or at the top right from the beginning. Then a 5th and a 1st. I mean, after the second day, he almost seems like a lock. He was in 1st place overall, I believe, and it looked really good. Today was not his day. 11th and Endure the Sled, not awful. I mean, he could afford that. Then a 27th, though, in this regionals event. It's just so fast. And I know that being a shorter athlete, that reach for the top of the bar to hit that beam it's just a little bit harder to get that stretch when you're someone like Brent Fakowski. You can just hit that thing very easily. But as a shorter athlete, it's a little bit difficult. I know he said that he's worked hard on those. So I'm sure he's improved, but I mean, he probably needs to improve a little bit more on that. I just changed this based on the finishes in that event. And if we scroll down, he finished second to last of the athletes that actually did the event, finished 27th. Two athletes had withdrawn by then and didn't complete the event. But of the athletes that did, he finished almost second to last. I mean, second to last. That's what he finished in. So hopefully, legless rope climbs don't appear at the CrossFit Games for him, but excited to see him there. It's cool to see someone that's built a little bit different, a shorter guy, 5'4". So it'll be exciting to see him. Moving over to the women's side, this was also another exciting field for me. I thought it was pretty exciting. I also want to say, looking at these events, this handstand reverse Fran, I guess it's a creative name, but that's not a thing, handstand reverse Fran. No one's going to ever like do handstand reverse Fran or know what that was. Fran is like it's such an iconic workout. Almost every CrossFitter you ask and you'd be like, what's Fran? They know what Fran is. And even variations of Fran, it's thrusters and pull-ups. Like you can do like a heavy Fran and go heavier than the normal Fran weights, and people would already have an idea of what that looks like in their head. Or you could be like a chest to bar Fran and people know exactly what you're saying. If you said handstand reverse Fran, nobody's going to like know what that looks like or remember what this event was or how it's Fran. It just doesn't feel like it's Fran without that pull-up element. Like if it was like chest to bar Fran, you just instantly know what that is. Heavy Fran, you know what that is. So I don't know about that naming or if anyone's ever going to look at that and think it's Fran, but it was an interesting event and it did start things out a little bit differently, although first, second, and third in that event did make it to the games. So maybe that says it was a really good event. Who knows? There were some outliers, but first, second, and third are the people that are in first, second, and third overall. Maybe it's a very well programmed event if you look at it that way. Mal O'Brien won that event. Mal O'Brien goes on to win a lot more events. I was very impressed by Mal this weekend. I think Mal really showed herself as somebody who can push Tia. There are some fairly good athletes in this field. I know this one on the women's side more than the men's was a little bit criticized for not having maybe the strongest athletes, but I actually think it's a very good field. And no matter who's in the field, just to win 4 to 6 events is very, very impressive. I think Mal is going to be somebody who we talk about for years to come. And I really think that she could push Tia in the future, maybe as soon as this year. Who knows? I think it could happen. I mean, she had a 5th in the weightlifting complex, but she's a smaller athlete relatively. She's 5'3", 135. 225 for that complex is still very impressive for someone her size. I know Tia is not much bigger than her, but Tia is also 10 years older than her and been in this sport longer. So Mal is impressive. And she showed that this weekend. A third on that last event, but whatever, right? Like it's a fast event and she did fantastic throughout the entire weekend. So very, very impressed with Mal. I think she's definitely someone, as we all know, I'm sure we all know that we need to watch her, but I think she proved that last year wasn't a fluke. If anyone maybe thought that, she's dominating here still and even more than she did last year. Amanda Barnhart came in second and kind of had a quiet weekend. I heard someone compare her to Cole Sager. I think that's very accurate. I mean, she was doing well after day 1. Day 2, she was doing well. I mean, she's doing well the whole time if you really look at it. But it was just never won anything, just kind of quietly in the top 5 for all but one event. So super impressive from Amanda Barnhart too. She's a top 10 level games athlete. And when we talked about her in our preview, we said that she's better than the programming, or I said she's better than the programming. It doesn't really matter what you put in there. She's probably going to qualify. And there you go. She finished in second behind Mal O'Brien, who I think is one of the most impressive athletes we have right now. Now, 3 was a surprise. That was Danny Spiegel. It's a surprise for me. I thought she might have to make it into the last chance qualifier in this field. So I was impressed by her ability to do so well, especially with some of her weaker events. Like there are a lot of running in this event in Granite Games as a whole. There was running most days at some point, and she came in third. She had a first and a second on day one and was sitting in first after day one. And she even said that was her best day. And she was right. It was by far her best day. But even day two, a fifth and a second, I mean, that's not bad. Day three was probably her worst day. She probably would have known that. A 12th and an eighth, but she had just done so much work those first 2 days. It didn't really matter. And those are not bad finishes. Those are respectable finishes. It's still a good field. I was impressed by Danny Spiegel. Maybe she's coming in this year as her best Danny Spiegel. I mean, I hope she is. And she did great. Made me look stupid for thinking that she might have to make it through the last chance qualifier. Great job, Danny. Congratulations. Welcome back to the games. Alexis Gazan, or Alexis Willis, it says here, but I believe her married name, the name she goes by, is Alexis Gazan. And she was, again, only rookie. There's only one rookie on the women's side and one rookie on the men's side. Only rookie on the women's side this year. And she just hung around in the top 5 for most of the weekend, or top 10 and then top 5. And then she was sitting in 5th going into the last event, I believe, and was near the right on the cut line. And she went and won the event. She did what she needed to do to make sure that she was going to be punching her games ticket. And you could see she was emotional as soon as she made it across the line. And then I talked to her afterwards about all the support she's had from the underdog. She was emotional then too. So very, very impressed by Alexis Gazan. I think she could do really well. I heard Justin Kotler, her coach, was talking about her afterwards, and he said that he thinks she can be a top 10 games contender in the next couple of years. I mean, maybe she wants to do it this year, but he sounded confident that he thinks that in 2 or 3 years, she'll be a regular as a top 10 in the games. And she's only 20 years old, very young, is married, she mentioned, because she has a different name. It's Alexis Gazan now. But I guess she has a great support crew, she was saying, and she was very happy to make it to the games. And these are great finishes. I mean, 11th in that first one, but that was a fast event. Second on the barbell complex, still very young, still getting stronger. 230 is a great score for that. And then a first in that last event. It was just impressive. I heard her coach say also that they were actually like waving her back. They were like, calm down. You're doing great. You don't want to push it too far and fail. So take a rest, take a breather. And she did amazingly. And that was the right move. And I was just very impressed by her all weekend, and also very impressed by her composure, being so close to the top the whole time and not getting flustered by that, or when she had that 10th place finish, worried. She just stayed consistent all weekend and shows that she deserves to go to the games. And I'm excited to see what she does in Madison. And Emily Rolfe kind of had to fight back. She had a 5th place after the first event. Great. Top 5. That's what you need to be to make the top 5. Then she had a 22nd in the barbell complex. She's more of an endurance athlete, so the heavy lifts are just not really her thing. And she managed to fight her way back. I mean, that was the only really bad finish. Day one was hard for her. She was in the second heat in day 2, but she didn't seem to let that bother her. She fought like she was in the top heat and had a second and a third on day 2. That's fantastic, especially when you're not next to those fastest women and you have to push not knowing, like you're running against an invisible person. You have to sprint to the finish line, even if you're way ahead, because you know that someone in the next heat may be charging down your time. So very impressed with her. And then today, a second on that long event, which I really like that Endure the Sled event, that everyone was in the same heat. I thought that was really cool. All 30 athletes, both the men and the women, but came in second there. And then a 4th in the 2014 regionals repeat. So super impressive. Great way to fight her way back from being, I think she was like 11th on the after the first day, and making it into the top 5. There was a little bit of a question of whether it was going to be her or Chloe Wilson, who fell below the cut line. Chloe Wilson's also a firefighter, an active firefighter. So really awesome athlete to see someone who's doing that and performing at this level. very impressive. And I found Chloe Wilson also very impressive. I think she's been knocking on a game spot, I believe, a couple years. I think she has a couple sixth place finishes, possibly, to her name at the semifinals. Well, seventh. She was seventh last year and sixth this year. So just knocking on that door 2 years in a row at the last chance qualifier. Maybe this year's her year. Maybe she makes it through that way. I mean, who knows? Fee Sagafi, I thought she was going to make it through this field. I think that 22nd in the complex just really hurt her. Her other finishes aren't bad. She has an eighth, a sixth, a fifth, a seventh, a second. Like, those are solid finishes. It's just, you really have to be a little bit better than that. Top five. I mean, top five is really what you need. If you can get top five in every event, there's very little chance you're not finishing the top five. But not quite there. But again, last chance qualifier, who knows? Maybe she'll get it there. Kelly Stone also going to the last chance qualifier, so we'll see what she can do. That last event really hurt her with those rope climbs. Some women just struggle more with those. It's just a hard workout. I mean, you see here, there's two caps. Some women didn't even finish the workout on the legless rope climb. So it's just a very different picture on the women's side than the men's side when you go to the legless rope climb. Now heading over to the teams real quick. I remember when I reviewed this and previewed it, I said, keep an eye on the Invictus team. Invictus team is your first team. I also mentioned CrossFit OBA, and I believe CrossFit Move Fast Lift Heavy, and those are your top three. I knew CrossFit OBA was going to be good. They have had some athletes move to that gym to help them get to this. So they did it. They brought the athletes in, they joined the gym, they moved their lives, and so they can make it to the games. They did it. CrossFit Invictus is just the only team that I believe has competed in every single one of the affiliate cups. So you just have to expect them to do well. I mean, first, third, first, second. That's money. That's what you need. 580 points out of 600. Super impressive. CrossFit Move Fast Lift Heavy did very well too. I believe that's a team that may have been disqualified after qualifying last year. And this year they came back, had some different people on the team, and qualified again. So it'll be great to see them actually make it to Madison this time. I might have mentioned Rhapsody CrossFit because that is a name. I definitely did not mention CrossFit Greater Heights Ascend, but congratulations to them. I mean, solid finishes. They have a first in there. They beat CrossFit Invictus. So we'll see how they can do at the games. CrossFit Invictus Inconquerable, I thought possibly had a chance. I know they're their second team, and they just kind of threw together some athletes that weren't training for this as seriously as the main CrossFit Invictus team. Would have loved to see them qualify. Would have loved to see CrossFit Invictus put multiple teams in like CrossFit Mayhem did. Just wasn't quite enough, but still good team competition. I enjoyed watching it. I thought there were some good team events. So I've enjoyed watching this whole weekend. Really, the Granite Games thought was programmed very well. Very interesting that it's outside. It's the only semifinal that's all outside at the Vikings practice facility. And I just thought it was programmed well, good athletes, good storytelling, good broadcast. I mean, the broadcast is super important. So I'm about to move over to the Far East Throwdown, and they did not have a great broadcast. So going over to the Far East, I only watched a little bit of this, honestly, because it's just kind of hard to watch. They had multiple cameras, which was good, instead of just one static camera. So that was good to see. But they had no announcers. So it's really hard to follow an event like this without someone explaining what's happening. And there was just no explanation. It was hard to keep up if you don't recognize the athletes as much because you don't know these athletes as well. It is hard to even know who's who. But the first place, I think it's Sungjin Choi is how you say that. She was at the games last year, and she was my pick when we discussed this in the preview to win this. And she did. So I got that one right. I did not guess a second place person because I actually sent two people. But first place was Troy. First, third, second. I mean, she dominated the whole weekend. Obviously sitting in first after the second day because she had 400 points. Third and a second. Great finishes. I mean, 588 out of 600 points. Impressive, fantastic. And it looks like these two women, the woman who finished second, Sahar Kaye, I'm so sorry. Sahar. that I butchered her name, but very impressive because she looks like she was in second the whole time. I mean, 560 points. There's a pretty big point spread between her and the next woman and then the women after that. So it looks like these two women were the top of this leaderboard all weekend and just pretty much dominated the semifinal. I'll be interested to see Sahar at the games and see how she does and see how these women in this Asia region do. Over to the men on this region, and the person that I predicted would win it, Roman Krenikov, won it. So another one that I got right. So I did get the first people right in this semifinal. I did not get the second person right. I thought it was going to be Alexander Ilin, who looks like he pulled out of the event. So he didn't even have a chance to compete. So couldn't see that one coming. But I don't think he was in the top two even before he had to pull out. But Roman Krenikov dominating the field, winning by, it looks like 32 points. That's pretty good. First and first on day one. So he sat in first after that. I mean, looks like he sat in first all weekend. First and first on the last day as well. Dominating the field. I hope Roman can get back to the US for Madison. I know they were concerned about that with visa issues. I mean, people call him like the fittest man never to compete at the games because he's just had trouble getting there because of his visa issues. So he has this one games appearance in 2020, but that was when they were doing the games remotely and he was actually able to compete in it. He hasn't been able to make it over to Madison. He made it to the US and then had to go compete back in Asia. So this South Korean event, I hope he makes it back. I think that he'll be a contender if he does. Definitely a top 10 contender, a podium contender, maybe a contender to win it all. So let's hope Roman can actually get over here for this. Second place was Nasser Alouay. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry, Nasser. But he was in second place, I believe, most of the weekend, or in that, yeah, second, first, fifth, third, fourth. Yeah, likely in second place most of the weekend, and had a good weekend. Looks like he'll be going to Madison as long as he can make it there. I know some of these athletes have issues with visas, so hopefully he can. I know Roman's really the one we're almost concerned about because he's had so much trouble in the past. Going over to the teams, we'll just shout out this team, KT CrossFit. Congratulations, KT CrossFit, who had a very, very, very dominant weekend. First. So they won everything. Very impressive weekend from KT CrossFit. Gonna go to the games. Hopefully they can show that they're deserving of being there. And they looked like they were very impressive over at the Far East Throwdown. So that is a wrap on our semifinals. Really excited for next week. I have loved talking about and covering these semifinals and doing these live streams. It's been a lot of fun for me. And I've loved watching them after COVID and not getting to see a lot of stuff in person. And even last year that we had semifinals back, some of them are virtual and just not as fun. So this has been awesome having all this entertainment and leading up to the games in August, which I will be at. So make sure you subscribe to my channel right now if you haven't yet, because I will have some games content. So that's going to be super exciting once we get there. But also because I'm going to continue to preview semifinals and discuss semifinals. Last chance qualifier, I'll talk about that too. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. And I have my training vlogs, which I know some people enjoy watching too. And I hope you all enjoy that as well. So I'm just really excited to share all of that with you. So make sure you subscribe. I'm really excited to watch more semifinals too. Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the semifinals events. I thought Granite Games was really good. I really enjoyed it. So I'd like to hear if you guys thought it was one of the better semifinals as well. And make sure you like this video. It really helps me out and helps me make more of these videos for all of you. I appreciate you all for watching, and make sure you tune into the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight.